Hey, what's going on, guys? OJ back here with another video, and today we're going to be talking about some unks and the times that they had y'all must have forgot type of performances. All right, these are some unks that are coming off some brutal losses, and a lot of people, mostly me including, all right, we all think that they're gonna get dethroned off the rankings. It's like the changing of the guard, but no. These guys turn back the clock, look like they're in their prime again, and start wailing on the new contenders while being like massive betting underdogs. So, without wasting our time, here are 8 times the old unks had the y'all must have forgot type of performances in 2025. All right, so we're gonna first start off with Benoit Saint Denis versus Mauricio Ruffy. Yeah, I was like many people singing BSD's swan songs. Like, not gonna lie, unless you're Lucas Tracy, who just picked BSD because he's a marauder with fight IQ. Like, realistically, you shouldn't really been picking Benoit Saint Denis. Like, he looked awful in the last like 2 or 3 fights or so. Like, yeah, sure, the Poirier fight wasn't like excusable. Poirier is like a top contender, but then Renato Moicano absolutely decimated BSD. And then in the Kyle Prepelic fight, BSD again, he looked very hittable. And sure, he was able to take down Kyle Prepelic, but Kyle Prepelic was looked at as a can. And the fact that Benoit Saint Denis actually had to struggle a little bit to get the finish, it was kind of concerning. Right? Now, Mauricio Rufi, we all thought, all right, which mostly me, we all thought that he was going to be able to knock out BSD cold in the first round because Mauricio Rufi was looking like one of the best strikers in the lightweight division. Because he's just getting highlight reel KO after highlight reel KO after highlight reel KO. Unless you're James Lontop, who missed weight by 10 pounds at catch weight, all right, there was no reason for uh, anyone to doubt Mauricio Rufi in this situation. But Benoit Saint-Denis actually chose to fight with fight IQ. All right, he did a very good job of throwing body kicks and head kicks aggressively nonstop to occupy the hands of Mauricio Rufi before shooting a double leg and ragdolling Rufi. And yeah, Rufi kind of showed that he doesn't have the deepest tool bag when it comes to grappling. He was getting held down a lot by Benoit Saint-Denis, and even when he reversed position, he did not have the confidence to jump into Benoit Saint-Denis' guard. Right? I was very surprised to see that. And BSD was able to take full advantage of this by, again, nonstop spamming head kicks and takedowns. All right. And ultimately, in the second round, BSD got the choke. And yeah, that was the end of the fighting nerds for Mauricio Rufi, at least. So BSD, again, like, I don't know why you would have picked him for this fight, but he proved most people wrong, and he looks to be actually really good now again. All right, now up next we got Mingyang Zhang versus Johnny Walker. Yeah, you just don't pick Johnny Walker to win fights in 2025, but Johnny Walker won this fight in 2025. All right, Walker, he started training with Eric Nixick, and you would think that it would be worse for Johnny Walker because Johnny Walker will end up just I don't know, sparring at range, and he will not throw anything aggressive. But in Johnny Walker's case, it actually worked out. All right, he used his 84-inch reach to stick the jab out, which I've never seen Johnny Walker do during his whole time with John Kavanaugh, I believe. Yeah. He never really did anything like that, like sticking the jab out and throwing leg kicks nonstop. Johnny Walker was very prone to just getting chinned by backing up repeatedly. And Zhang Mingyang eventually folded to the leg kicks, which again I didn't see coming. And Johnny Walker won the fight by round 2 TKO, despite being like a plus 400 underdog. It was absolutely insane. And the fact that Zhang Mingyang was propped up to be a prospect that the UFC wanted because one, the UFC loves the Chinese market, and two, you wouldn't give a prospect to Johnny Walker otherwise. Like unless you want to see like a highlight reel KO for free. All right. Zhang Mingyang, although he was propped up to be China's number one heavier weight class fighter, he ultimately lost to Johnny Walker, which I don't know. It still boggles my mind because I never thought in a million years that Johnny Walker was going to win this fight. All right, now up next we got Tim Elliott versus Kai Asakura. Tim Elliott, yeah, I know that he had like the grappling, and Kai Asakura largely didn't really prove himself in that department, but it's really hard to pick Tim Elliott. Like, he was coming off a 2-year layoff. He's now 39 years old. He didn't really have the best track record while he was active in the first place. And although Kai Asakura didn't have the best grappling, I thought by far Kai Asakura would be the better striker. And I thought that Asakura could be dangerous against anyone outside the top five because he had a wide variety of strikes. And to be fair, Kai Asakura's landing stuff. It's just that Tim Elliott still has a granite chin at the age of 39, and he just casually eats Kai Asakura's head kicks. I don't know how that's possible, but yeah, that happened. And Tim Elliott, whenever the fight took place on the ground, it was one-way traffic. There was no resistance. Tim Elliott gets a mounted guillotine choke in the second round of their fight. So I had no words for that other than the fact that like how terrible is Ryzen. But fair enough. I didn't really think that Tim Elliott was gonna win in the first place. So rather than trashing Kaya Suguro some more, I'm gonna say that Tim Elliott turned back the clock and gave us another y'all must have forgot type performance. All right, now moving on, we got Michael Johnson versus Daniel Zellhuber. Now, the UFC, all right, they were setting Zellhuber up for a bounce back win by giving him 39-year-old Michael Johnson. And yes, Michael Johnson was on a little bit of a streak. However, it looked to be pretty bleak because Zellhuber was looking like a sharp, rangy striker who was just too technical for Michael Johnson at this stage of his career. However, Michael Johnson, he just fought aggressively, and Zellhuber didn't really have any answers, all right, outside of the body kick of doom. And Michael Johnson was able to box up this Zellhuber pretty effectively. And sure, in the third round, Zellhuber was able to bounce back with some more kicks, but again, he didn't really show any aggression, which was how Michael Johnson was able to fraud check him because Michael Johnson, he kind of gritted down and he had a sense of urgency into his fights, even though he was kind of getting clipped at times. While as Zellhuber didn't really have the urgency to win. So yeah, it was a vintage Michael Johnson, y'all must have forgot type of performance because again, he was cracking Zellhuber with some crazy shots as well. And I wouldn't have been surprised if Zellhuber got knocked out, but fair enough. Zellhuber does have a pretty tough chin. And yeah, I thought that I don't know, I actually thought that Michael Johnson was gonna win this one. This was one of the few cases where like I was like, yeah, Zellhuber's not good. And Michael Johnson, like, even though he's old, I still rate him pretty highly. But fair enough. I understood why most people wouldn't choose him because, again, it's Michael Johnson at 39 years old. And Daniel Zellhuber, even though he's not the best prospect, he looked to be like someone that the UFC wanted to take care of. And he was actually pretty talented. So, yeah, it was actually a very great performance. Y'all must have forgot from Michael Johnson over here. And yeah, Michael Johnson's now looking at a 3-fight win streak in 2025 because of Daniel Zellhuber. Up next, we got Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. Yeah, I did not think that Kamaru Usman was going to win this fight. All right. Usman with his cobblestone, wobblestone knees at the ripe age of 37. Yeah, I didn't really believe in him to beat Joaquin Buckley. And Joaquin Buckley, prior to this, all right, he was on like a 6-fight win streak. He beat Colby Covington like in one-sided fashion. Looking back at it, not the most impressive win. However, using those fights, I thought, Joaquin Buckley, he's good enough in the wrestling department to just get back up to his feet, even if he gets taken down. And he's good enough to where, like, he can just stuff some takedowns. But no, that's not what happened. All right. Despite Kamaru Usman not fighting for 2.5 years, Kamaru Usman gave us a vintage Usman performance by just taking down Joaquin Buckley at will for 4 rounds. And Kamaru Usman was able to neutralize Buckley's offense until the fifth round, and by then it was kind of a little bit too late. So yeah, Kamaru Usman, I will say this was one of the exceptions to like I guess my takes on lay and pray because normally I'm not the biggest fan of lay and pray. However, because Kamaru Usman's an unk, but I'm fought in 2.5 years, right? I'm not gonna suddenly complain about it being a boring performance because, like, on the off chance that Kamaru Usman was gonna win, I expected Kamaru Usman to win like that because I never really thought that Kamaru Usman had a chance on the feet to begin with. Well, yeah, fair enough. Kamaru Usman won. I did not expect that, but yeah, he's still looking like a top contender at the ripe age of 37, despite not fighting for almost 2 years. So hats off to Kamaru Usman. All right, now up next we got Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. Yeah, Justin Gaethje. I know he beat Rafael Fiziev before, but he was coming off that brutal, and I mean brutal KO loss against Max Holloway. And even though he won against Fiziev in the past, like Fiziev's like looked at as a dangerous striker, and there were a lot of questions regarding Gaethje's chin. And Gaethje he turned out to be completely fine though, right? Fiziev was hitting him with some crazy shots, but Justin Gaethje just pushed forward and looked fine. Right towards the third round, both fighters were starting to gas out a little bit, but still, Justin Gaethje dogged it out. And although it was short notice, Rafael Fiziev, I think Gaethje proved that he's still got something in the tank. Right? Unfortunately, he's not really fighting right now. But still, Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev, he looked just like the old Gaethje. I thought it was like a very similar performance to the first fight. So Justin Gaethje's actually pretty good. Right? I thought his chin was completely cooked after the Max Holloway fight, but yeah, Justin Gaethje bounced back and gave us another y'all must have forgot type of performance. Up next, we got Jared Cannonier versus Gregory Rodriguez. Now, this was one of the what do you call highlights of my 2025 because I was worried for Jared Cannonier. Right, Jared Cannonier was coming out that brutal fight against Kyle Barallo, where he basically got fifth round TKO'd, but Dan Margliotta didn't do anything to stop the fight. And Gregory Rodriguez, he looked to be an unstoppable force of nature before this fight. Now, like in hindsight, Rodriguez does gas out and he is chinny. However, he was a dangerous power puncher, and there were questions regarding Cannonier's chin after taking so much damage in the last couple of fights. All right. The Mavov fight, where he got wobbled pretty badly before the early stoppage, and then Kyle Barallo, who almost killed Jared Cannonier in the process, like a couple months back. And although Cannonier looked to be wobbly in the first, all right, Gregory Rodriguez was coming out aggressive and he dropped Cannonier multiple times. Cannonier looked pretty durable out there, surprisingly. And in the first round, all right, he gave it up. But starting from rounds 2 to 4, it was one-way traffic for Jared Cannonier. He dropped Gregory Rodriguez multiple times before in the fourth round, ultimately crumpling Gregory Rodriguez. All right, it was a super impressive vintage Jared Cannonier performance, and there's a reason why Cannonier has been in the top 10 for so long, despite being like what 41 years old. All right, I thought that was a very impressive fight, and yeah, this is why we're all fans of Jared Cannonier. Last but not least, we got Chayton Talbott versus Howney Barcelos. You know, people forget, man. Howney Barcelos, he's a crafty vet, folks. No, but in all seriousness, though, like the UFC actually wanted Peyton Talbot to win. And sure, Howney Barcelos was like a big jump up in competition for Talbot. But at the same time, Howney Barcelos hadn't fought within like 2 years or something along those lines. And the UFC literally gave Peyton Talbot this matchup because they wanted to prop him up as the next big superstar in the bantamweight division. Tony Barcelos kind of took Peyton Talbot to school in their fight, though. Right? He was a plus 1600 underdog. All right. But when the fight happened, it didn't look like a plus 1600 underdog. All right. One way traffic in the grappling. Peyton Talbot could not get up. He couldn't stuff the takedowns. He couldn't do anything effective against Howney Barcelos. And sure, on the feet, Peyton Talbot was doing his thing. But at the same time, Howney Barcelos was doing enough to avoid the most damaging shots. And every time Peyton Talbot overextended, he just took him down and proceeded to maul him. Right? It was actually a pretty cool performance from Hani Barcelos, especially because Hani Barcelos is looking good right now. He come off a win against Cody Garbrandt, and also Peyton Talbot. All right, he also did his own fraud checking to Felipe Lima later on. So yeah, it was a very impressive performance from Hani Barcelos and a fine aging performance. All right, y'all must have forgot about the crafty vet known as Hani Barcelos. All right, that's gonna be it for today's video. Leave a comment down below if I forgot any fights that kind of go with y'all must have forgot. Like, I do have a couple of my fights in mind, like Volkanovski versus Lopez, but I didn't really think that Volkanovski should be that big of an underdog because, like, I wasn't thinking, yeah, Volkanovski has no chance. All right, I picked Lopez, but I wasn't going like, oh, Diego Lopez is gonna smoke him or anything like that, and I don't think most people either. All right, but if you guys have any fights like that where like the unks look like they're completely cooked, but they just turn back the clock and fraud check another prospect, let me know in the comments down below. But other than that, though, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, so I can get this channel monetized and I don't have to work at my part-time job anymore. And yeah, I'll probably see you guys later. Peace.